So this is the first time you are going to do a project by yourself. These tools, the statistics itself is very, very important for our daily walk of life. You will do a project because you want to find out the value of your time, your energy. You need to have a procedure, a methodology in the way you're going to present the data. Conclusion is the most important part, which is going to come and tell you the meaning of the project. Good morning and welcome to the first session on Chapter 9, Uses of Statistical Tools. Now this session is very, very interesting and important because we are now going to see what is the real use of statistics in economics. There have been several talks about statistics. We have learned different types of formulas, different methodologies, different ideas about statistics, but now we are going to implement those ideas and we are going to see how statistics really makes a difference in economics. So quickly moving forward, the topics that we are going to cover today, starting with the introduction, steps towards making a project. So this is the first time you are going to do a project by yourself, a practical experience, not to forget. Sample project, we do have some sample projects for you to have a look into it. The questionnaire, how is the sample questionnaire? What are the types of model questions that you are going to prepare? How are you going to make a questionnaire itself? And then some of the model patterns and types. So this entire chapter is being designed in such a manner that you are going to be involved in making something practical use of all the theory ideas, of all the problems, of all the things that you have studied in statistics. You are going to put it in practice and you are going to see that how statistics becomes an important package in economics altogether. Now moving forward, the first thing that I would like to introduce today is that these tools, the statistics itself is very, very important for our daily walk of life. Why? Because in every day, we tend to analyze something or the other. Now let's say that in today's news, there was a talk about the national education policy. Moment there is a news that breaks out in any of the TV channels, in the newspapers or any of the factors, people start thinking, is it good? Is it right? Can I follow this? Can I follow somebody else? There's always a debate and discussion about every single news that you hear, that you see and that you keep watching. So what happens here is that statistics becomes an inherent part of it. There are people who support the opinion, there are people who oppose the opinion. So everywhere there are numbers that are floating all around you. So you need to start analyzing, you need to start understanding the factor that where am I going to use the statistics? Do those numbers really matter to me a lot? If people say that the fiscal deficit has gone up by 7.8%, the GDP has gone down by 4%, or if somebody comes and tell you that gross NPA is shooting up in India by 13%, automatically what happens here is that you forget the title, but you are interested in numbers. You want to know how those numbers will make an impact in your daily walk of life. So that is very, very important for all of you to understand with relation to economy and the economic activities as how these statistics figures will matter. Now, the other thing is that in this chapter, you will also develop the method of developing a project altogether. How is a project? How do we involve ourselves into projects? What are the different factors that you can see? The various kinds of projects that are available for you in our country. And similarly, some of the statistical tools and methods. So what is going to be interesting for you in this session is that you are now going to get into a practical analysis. You are going to define a project. You are going to define the outcome of the project. And definitely, you are going to see how well statistics is going to place you in economics. So moving forward, the steps towards developing a project. Now, what is a project first of all? Project is something that is a calculated activity. It's a measurable activity. You don't do a project just because you wanted to do it. You don't do a project just because it's available. You will do a project because there is some meaning behind it. You will do a project because you want to find out the value of your time, your energy, the money that is being spent, so that is something useful for the nation as well as for you. So selecting a project, getting into a project mindset itself is very, very important altogether. So how is that you are going to do a project? What is that I need to do if I have to start with a project today? My first thing is that I'm going to identify a problem or an area of study. Is there really a problem in what I'm trying to understand, or is that I have to go through because it's just a mere step? In fact, the answer here is that for every single project, for every single research article or research we tend to do here, there is some area of gap, there is some area of problem or challenges which has not been identified by the previous researcher. So it becomes your duty that you start understanding that challenge. You start identifying that gap. You start telling people clearly how things are going to happen. So it becomes very, very important for all of us to understand the factor itself, that how the project is going to be calculated, what is the area of study for us. So at the outset, that's why I say you should be clear about what you want to know. Why is that you want to know that project? If I say that I want to understand about the commodities market, why is that I want to study about commodities market? I could have studied about futures and options. I could have studied about equities. I could have studied about money market. But why is that I want to select commodities market alone? Which means there is an objective. There is a clear-cut purpose that runs in my mind. So that is why I'm going to select that. So based on your objective, the word objective, that is where is going to define your project altogether. So you will need to proceed with your objective and not with any gut intuition altogether, or not with any sort of bias in your mind. Second thing, the choice of the target group. Whom are you identifying as the right audience, as the right person who can give answers to your questions? So the target group, that word itself is very, very important as we start understanding the steps of a project development. Why? Because let's say that you are going to identify a problem or a challenge related to automobile sector. Now you cannot go and ask the question about the sales of an automobile to a banker, to a teacher, or to a doctor, because they are not the right persons who will be able to answer your question. The right person who will be able to answer your question regarding an automobile sale is a salesperson working in the showroom. So that's where I come and say the identification factor. You need to identify. You need to understand to whom are we talking. Is this the correct person? Will he be able to answer to all my questions? So that is where the framing of questions with the appropriateness comes into picture. So this matters a lot in terms of understanding. Next, collection of data. How are you going to collect data? Now, this is a very big challenge that happens for any researcher in any part of the world. Why? Because there is n number of data that is floating around us. We all know about it. Moment you switch on your laptop or you switch on your mobile, through Google, you will be able to see lot and lot of data. Data just keeps floating around you for free. But then, is that the right data? Is that the correct data? Is that the meaningful data? Is that the one which is going to add value to your project? All these questions will keep lingering in your mind, trying to answer you, trying to ask you this simple factor, am I going on the right way? So if I want the correct answer for my objective, I need the correct data. I need to go to a place, I need to go to a person where the collection of data needs to be correct. So what I need to do is that I need to undertake a survey in such a manner that I am able to get the right data at the right time at the right place. So that is where the project becomes really interesting for us, and the project also becomes valuable and meaningful altogether. So I cannot just go there and say that I have collected data from some secondary sources, from some published journals, or from the internet altogether. Those data might not be appropriate, might not be meaningful, might not be adding value to you at that point of time. So what you need to do here is that the step called as collection of data will be used, will be done with a particular method. So you can go either with the primary method where you do the first half research, or you can go even with the secondary research where you will be taking the data from a published resource altogether. So the collection of data is a very, very important phase, and in fact I would also like to mention here that is the longest phase that you can be able to see in the research project altogether. It might take few weeks to few months or sometimes even a year in terms of collecting the necessary data that you need for your project. Now, moving forward, organization and presentation. We have learned the presentation of data in our first beginning chapters of economics statistics itself. So this is where the organization and presentation of data comes in. After you have collected data, it becomes even more interesting. How should I go to this world and tell people that yes, I have done this project, this is what I have identified out of the project? Which means you need to have a system, you need to have a procedure, a methodology in the way you're going to present the data. If the data is not presented in the right manner, if the data is not organized in the right manner, then you will not be able to make a good impression about your project in wherever you are going to present. So it is highly important. How are you organizing your presentation? How are you organizing the data that you have collected so that when you go there and when you present the data, people understand you, people believe you, and people trust you that yes, it's a genuine project and the outcomes are being trusted by the people altogether. So you need to organize, you need to put it in a format, you need to put it in proper graph, proper table with the resource, with the locations, and if there are any formulas or any kind of links that you have used, all that needs to be put in so that you will be able to show it in a chronological order. It should be in a particular way, in an ascending manner, where you go and tell people, I have started my collection from here, it moved to step 2, step 3, and so on, so that people are now interested to know more about your project. So that is where organization and presentation of data matters a lot when it comes to the concept of statistical analysis in project. Now, similarly, when we come here to the analysis and the interpretation part, it is highly, highly important. Why? Because this is the factor that we have been talking about. The usage of central tendency, measurement of central tendency, dispersion models, or any kind of index numbers that we have been talking about in statistics. This particular session, I'm very, very interested and I'm very, very particular about. Why? Because here you are going to use the real statistics altogether. This is where you are going to play with numbers, you are going to play with the formulas, you're going to plug in some of the models, and you're going to tell people that yes, this is what we mean by doing the project. So this is the situation, this is the analysis part where you're going to analyze the data, come back and tell people, yes, I have done it. But when you do the analysis, the most important factor is that the choosing of right formula, right methodology, and telling people why you have selected it. Because most of the time, what people tend to do in a project is that they just take any formula that is available, they just take any kind of aspects that is convenient to them, and they present the modulation and they say everything is fine. But then that does not work out altogether. You need to analyze using some data concepts properly so that when it comes to the interpretation part, you are able to tell people with the exact meaning, with the exact flow, that this is what I have done. Calculation of any data, calculation of any work needs to understand the way how it has to be presented altogether. So that's why I always say that analysis and interpretation will carry an important phase in your project management, in your project research altogether. Now, moving forward, conclusion. Are we ended with our project? Are we happy with what we have done? Are we done by saying that yes, I have completed the project? The answer to that will be given in your conclusion. So when I say the word conclusion, that means it is the last step that you are going to take in your project and go back and tell the people that this is what I have done. This is the conclusion. This is the meaningful conclusion that I have come across, saying that this is how we have done the project. This is the meaning of the project. So in that sense, in that belief, I would always like to say conclusion is the most important part, which is going to come and tell you the meaning of the project, the meaning of the entire exercise that you had taken for this long year. Now, interpreting of results is also important in conclusion. Now you may ask me, what did we do in analysis and interpretation? Yes, we did come out with results. We did come out with ideas. But here we are going to tell again, we are going to reinstate in the line of conclusion that this is what exactly happened in terms of the project. Last but not the least, we do not need to forget bibliography. Very, very important. Why? Because you need to mention the details of all these sources. It becomes quite evident and simple for many people today that you just take data right, center, left from any of the published or unpublished resources and just put it across and say this is what I have done. But then tomorrow, when there's going to be a question on the genuineness, on the factors of the trust, belief, on the factors that whether it is actually a genuine publication altogether, then you need to be doubly sure. So that is why you need to give a bibliography where you are going to tell to the people that this is what exactly it means. These are the sources from which the data is being collected altogether. So bibliography will form a very, very important aspect of your factor, which will tell you how the project is done, from where it is done, so that tomorrow people can refer and you will also have a backup saying that I have done the project from these areas, so you can refer and you will have a meaningful conclusion to it altogether. Now, moving forward, the sample project. So I'm just going to give you certain sample projects which you can try it at your home, which you can also do it as a classwork or a homework altogether. So let's say what are some of the sample projects that we have seen from your textbook, as well as these are some of the projects which are being taken at the national level altogether. One of the project is a polio immunization report in a particular area. Quite a well-known project, quite a well appreciated project altogether. Most of us know about this thing that has been doing at the national level for the healthcare system, the polio immunization project. So you can probably take about this project, find out in your area how many kids have undergone this treatment, how many people have been treated with the polio factors, so that you will be able to present a report saying that this is what we have been doing. Second thing, you are a bank officer and you want to survey the saving habits of the people. Yet another interesting project. So you can just take up a banking project, find out how many people have been doing this savings activity altogether, so you can be able to do another project there. Similarly, you are a part of a group of students who want to study on farming practices. Agriculture being a very, very interesting area, you can probably take this project also, where you will be able to understand what are the activities that are going on and how you can form a report or how you can form a project in this particular area altogether. So definitely you have multiple projects that are being done, that are being designed, which you can take it and which you will be able to do it in terms of the sample project altogether. Now there are other projects also which you can see in your textbook, which you can see in different forms of published resources, but this is what I would just like to give you as a hint, I would like to give you as a sample altogether. But then moving forward, questionnaire. The most important thing in our life is what you need to ask, and what you need to know is questions. Without asking question, you will never get an answer. So the questionnaire itself forms a very, very important aspect of our life. What is a questionnaire? A series of questions that are asked for your customers. Now, in our life, we want to get answers exactly for what we are doing. And many a times you don't get the answer. The reason is that you are not prepared to ask them exactly what you want, or you have not designed a pattern of questions through which you will be able to get your answers. So it becomes very important and interesting that how you tend to design a questionnaire. What are the steps that are involved in a questionnaire? Why should I design a questionnaire? To whom should I give this questionnaire, and how the results need to be interpreted? For all these things, for all those big questions that run in your mind, we have a simple answer, and that answer is questionnaire. So that is how we are going to get into designing of questionnaire, and we are going to get the answers of your mind. So these questions are typically a combination of closed-ended and open-ended question. Now you might ask me, what does a closed-ended question and an open-ended question mean? A closed-ended question is something very, very simple, where it's going to be straightforward question like, what is your name? Or what is your height? What is your weight? These are all definitive one-shot, one-line answer question, where we are not going to have any guessing, where we are not going to have any sort of opinions, where we are not going to have any kind of second thoughts altogether. But then when I'm going to ask you an open-ended question, I might probably ask you a question, what do you think about junk food? What do you think about going and eating outside? What do you think about spending your time leisurely? Now, these are all questions where I'm trying to ask your opinions, where I'm trying to find out your thought process altogether. So open-ended questions are those long descriptive type questions which will involve a lot of thinking, which will involve a little bit of analysis. And the most important thing is that open-ended questions, there's never a right or a wrong answer. It's just an opinion. So you need to respect the opinions of others, and you need to take that opinions into your survey. Then only the survey, the questionnaire becomes interesting altogether. Now, long form questions leave room for customers to elaborate their thoughts. Now, why I'm saying this long form questions is that normally when you design a questionnaire, or when you look into a questionnaire, if you have just designed with 2 or 3 questions, or say 5 questions, the customer might not be able to elaborate and exactly put forth his thought process. So you at least minimum need to have some 15 to 20 questions which will try to explore the mind of the customer and try to make you get the answers that you wanted. Because if the customer wants to write something, or the customer wants to express something, there should be a space, there should be a room where he can go ahead and express himself as a factor. But what happens normally in most of the questionnaire is that due to the lack of time, or do you feel that these questions can be just handled easily, or due to pre-assumptions, or what happens here is that most of the people do not give the customer the room or the space to express himself or herself. So that is one of the biggest mistakes that you can see in questionnaire. You need to give the questions an ample space and ample number of times, so that the customer is able to recall, he is able to understand that yes, this is what the company wants to know from me, and this is what I want to raise as an opinion towards that particular product or the service altogether. So moving forward. Now this is a sample questionnaire. This questionnaire is something that has been devised for a patient satisfaction survey. So this is typically taken up from a hospital. So you can see the doctor's name or some kind of people who have done it. So what we are going to talk about is that we are going to ask the patient, example, that how was the treatment, how did he feel about the healthcare system, how was the way of analysis, the diagnosis that was given to him, was the staff courteous enough, was the hospital good enough, was the food facilities that was provided to him, was it good enough. What we are typically trying to do is just a customer service survey form. Very, very important. Why? Because for a person who is a third party to this, he might not feel this as important, but for the people who are working in that hospital, every single word that is spoken from a customer does matter to him a lot. Why? Because his words will run a long way. So tomorrow if the customer gives a very good rating and he says that yes, the hospital was really courteous enough, the hospital staff were really good enough, and the doctor was really excellent in terms of treating me, in terms of getting me away from that disease, automatically the rating for the healthcare system, the rating for the institution goes up, and tomorrow it becomes a brand reference altogether. So every single survey taken, every single factor that is taken, every single point that is taken has to be mentioned, has to be recorded, and has to be put in such a manner that the words that has been taken into position will definitely matter. They have to be recorded, they have to be made sure that every customer view is being taken care by the management. Now, moving forward, how to make a questionnaire. So, are you interested in making a questionnaire? And if the answer is yes, this is how you need to start making a questionnaire. First thing, know your question types. Are they open-ended? Are they closed-ended? What type of questions do you want to ask? Do you want to ask straightforward questions, or do you want to ask questions which are opinion-based? So that is very, very important for us. You need to tell us what type of questions that you are going to ask. Keep it brief when possible. Now, that's a very, very important thing. Please don't drag things that are not needed. See, for example, you might ask a simple question like, what is your qualification? Now, it is not mandatory that you ask him to list right from his first standard till his PhD degree. You don't have to elaborate too much. Where did you study your first standard? Where did you study your fifth standard, your 10th standard? No, you can just shorten the question by asking one simple thing: what is your qualification? So keep it brief. The brief in terms of just trying to answer to the point. Next, choose a simple visual design. It's always said that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So always visual design will help you to address the consumer first, and that is an eye-catchy perception. So that is why you need to have a simple visual design which will go and tell the customer that this is what you are trying to do. Next factor, the clear research process. What are you intending to do? Please do not do a questionnaire because somebody asked you to do. Please do not do a questionnaire because you felt that I had excess of time with me left, so I just designed a questionnaire, I just passed it on to 10 people and found out their opinion. That's not going to work out. So what you need to do is that you have to have a clear research process. When you go to the customer should feel that yes, he is genuine in taking my opinion. He is really sincere in addressing my queries. So the research process should be able to address certain important aspect values of the customer. Create questionnaire which are straightforward, unbiased language. Very, very important, because many a times what happens is that, especially in India, we are a land of diversity. There are millions and millions of people living in this country, multiple languages, multiple religious practices, multiple ways of addressing things. So we need to have a uniformity. We need to have a way how it is being talked about. No mincing of words, no putting any double standard kind of questions. Your questions need to be straightforward, addressing only the issue. Please do not try to bring in any sort of sarcastic remark, or please do not try to bring in any sort of meaning that would hurt the sentiment of people. So what you need to do is that keep the questionnaire very, very simple, straight, and use a language which is understandable, which is unbiased, so that everybody who goes through your questionnaire feels, wow, I'm able to understand, I'm able to do it, I'll definitely put in my efforts to give the best answers to the researcher. So these are some of the steps that we need to keep in our mind moving forward. Now we also need to keep that every question is important. Now that's very, very most and a basic factor that we need to learn when it comes to a questionnaire. Now if there are 20 questions that are being designed in your questionnaire, how many questions are important? All the 20 are important. Please do not take the first 5 is not important, the next 5 is important, the next 10 may be important. Let's not do the categorization there. Every single question is important because it will add value, it will add meaning to your entire perspective. So please keep in mind, every question is important. Do not try to skip questions, do not try to leave them as you want, or do not give the option to the consumer that you may not need to answer this, you might skip it. Don't do that. Make sure that every single question is answered clearly. Next one, ask one question at a time. Now that's a very, very simple and a common sense factor. You cannot rush to the customer saying that answer all the 100 questions at a time. Go one by one, go in a clear format, in a precise manner, make the customer feel comfortable and tell him that you need to answer question 1, then 2, then 3. So it's a series. So you make him feel happy about the factor that you are doing an exact process altogether. Order your questions logically. What is a sequence? In what sequence do you want to flow? You are a kind of person, you are a kind of researcher where logic needs to be applied, and that logic has to flow in your questionnaire so that customer is also able to connect with you. The logic needs to be built in such a manner that every single question is adding meaning to me in terms of understanding what exactly the research is all about. Next, your target audience. This is very, very important. Now, questionnaire is not like an advertisement pamphlet which you keep throwing out in the air everywhere. Please understand, when you are going to ask this questionnaire to a set of people, to a designated group altogether, they need to give you the correct answer. So select your target audience. Find out who will be the right person who will be able to give you the right answers. So go to that audience, sit with them, try to understand the process, make them convinced about the factors that you are going through, and let them answer the question at their time. Then only you will be able to get the right answer. And test your questionnaire. How can you test your questionnaire? You are the right person. You take the questionnaire, you try filling up the form like a customer, find it out whether it is making some sense to you, whether you are able to address all the challenges. Is there somewhere the question is lacuna missing, or is there somewhere the question is not making a meaning? So you can test the questionnaire before you go to the field and start telling people, please fill my questionnaire. So these are some of the steps which I would recommend you to follow before you start building up your questionnaire. Now moving forward, the model questionnaire. I would just like to leave you with some sample questionnaire thought process. Now just look at the question. How would you describe your employment status? So we have an option: full-time, you are part-time, you are a contract employee, you are a self-employed, or you are unemployed. So it's quite simple. So how do you like to say? It is an option that is being given to you. So let's say that you are a full-time employee, so you will just click on that particular box and you will say, yes, this is what I am. So now look at the question. It is a direct question where you are just asking yourself to describe in one word, in one sentence, whether you are a full-time, you are a part-time, or you are a freelancer, or you are unemployed. So it's a question that is making sense to you and you are able to understand it, and so that you can go ahead and give a response to it. So that's very, very important in your model question paper altogether. Now, let's move forward. The next question: how many employees work in your company? Now, let's say that you are an owner of a company and there are people working under you. So you can say how many people are working under you: 0 to 20, 21 to 50, 51 to 100, 101 to 1000, or 1000 plus. So let's say that you are a small company, automatically you will have only about 20 to 50 employees. So your bandwidth would be somewhere here. Or if you are a medium-sized company, let's say you have about 100 employees to 1000 employees. If you are a large-sized company, then you will have 1000 plus employees. So now you are able to understand the sequence, the logic. Every single question is being asked with the logic that is being presented to you. Moving forward, how would you classify your role altogether? Contributor, manager, vice president, director, executive. Now, these are all the designations that are being given in your organization. So you need to tick the appropriate designation and say, yes, I am a person of this status, I am a person of this stature, this is what I do to the organization. So one tick, one simple understanding of what you are to the organization will help a lot for the researcher. So you need to give a very, very clear picture in terms of the question and the options that you are presenting it to the people or to the customer, so that they have the choice to answer. Now let's say that you are just going to put the same monotonous role, manager, accountant kind of thing. Not really mandatory, because there might be people who are at higher levels, there might be people who are individual contributors. So you need to give ample options to the people so that they are able to give you the correct answer at any point of time. Moving forward, I have one more question that you can have a look into. How do you classify your industry? So what type of industry are you working? Are you working in the software? You work in hospitality? Do you work in services, consulting, entertainment? So now you have different sectors. So probably when you start giving options to people, they will try to understand that this is what we are doing, why this is important, why this is mandatory. Now let's say that there are a lot of people who work in different sectors altogether, but they are not doing the same kind of job. I might be working in an automobile industry, but I might be working as a designer. I'm not a technical person. I might be working in the automobile industry, but I might be working in the HR department. So you need to give me options to understand exactly in that sector, in that field, what am I doing, so that I will have the option to tick, I will have the option to interact with you in terms of the questionnaire. Now moving forward, the conclusion for this great chapter that we need to understand is that this needs to be studied. The objectives need to be studied very clearly and identified. So it's very, very important that you identify your objectives, because that is the base for doing any research sample population altogether or your research study altogether. Now, the population and sample has to be chosen carefully from where you are selecting your sample. What is your population size? That also needs to be mentioned. The objective of the survey will indicate the type of data. So, are you doing a primary research study? Secondary research also needs to be mentioned. Questionnaire or interview that we saw right now is the most interesting part. It has to be prepared and it has to be presented in the right manner. Collected data can be analyzed using the various statistical tools, including your measures of dispersion, central tendency, index numbers. All those factors can be used. Finally, the results are interpreted to draw an important meaning. So the results are finally used where you will be able to understand and analyze this factor. Now, with this, we come to the conclusion for today's session. Thank you for joining me on this wonderful session. I hope and believe that the session was interesting, educative and informative. Please do make it a point to go through the chapter, because this chapter will make a lot of difference to you and you will be the right person to involve in terms of taking up those sample projects. Meet you in the next session. Until then, thank you and goodbye from my side.